represent some kind of upheaval in the society, some kind of turbulence in the society, right? So, that is where these thoughts, they develop, right, under the conditions where there might be some form of, say, political instability, right? Some kind of political conflict. So, let me take certain examples, and then possibly would understand it, right? So, for instance, when Kautilya, he wrote his Arthashastra, or Manu, what has come down to us, as Manu Smriti, for instance, right? So, they were written at a time wherein the society was moving in a direction, or the society was being shaped in a manner which possibly was a way different from the earlier times, right? Meaning that, this is some kind of changes which would not be in the same line of developments of the past. So it would be something different, and it would be way different from what has happened earlier in the history, right? So, Kautilya's Arthashastra would be focused more on the development and expansion of an empire, wherein the king can make himself the most powerful, entity around, and his state or kingdom would be the most powerful kingdom, right? So similarly, when Manu would develop his thoughts, so it would be for the organization of the society in a manner where stratification can take a place in a manner wherein the social conflicts can be avoided, right? Similarly, if we look at some of the Western political thinkers, for instance, right? So I would take a few names with which you may be familiar, right? So when Hobbes wrote his Leviathan, then he was writing at a time where Britain was undergoing some kind of political conflict, right? So civil war was the context in which Hobbes developed his thought. Okay. Now, similarly, when John Locke he wrote his two treatises on government, then the glorious revolution was the immediate context, right? So the point I'm trying to make, that there has to have some immediate context, right? There has to have the prevailing conditions in which thought develops, right? In which the particular idea, right, which may be embedded in the thinking process of an individual thinker, becomes thought. Okay, so thinking and ideas themselves would not become thought until they take a concrete shape, number one, and number two, until they are an outcome of, or they are the product of, the specific time in which they take shape, a specific time in which they develop. Clear hai? Clear hai?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So one, we are referring to the ideas, and two, we are referring to the process through which it takes shape, right? Through which it develops, through which it becomes a, it becomes an entity which can be treated as thought, right? Now, when we refer to this specific time, we refer to this specific context, we refer to the space in which they develop. This doesn't mean that the thought or the ideas of a specific political thinker cannot be generalized or would not have any universal application. So this is what becomes the third characteristic of political thought, right? Meaning that, as far as the political thought is concerned, political thought develops in a given context, but it would have universal application primarily due to the fact that the ideas or the thought of an individual thinker would be relevant for the society in the times to come, right? So, when Kautilya was talking about the importance of territory, for instance, right? Kautilya was talking about the importance of state power, for instance, right? When Kautilya was talking about the importance of happiness of the subjects, which the king is expected to maintain under all circumstances, right? So this would have applicability, this would have its relevance for the time to come, meaning that, just to conceptualize it, I would put it in a different way, right? This means that, as far as ideas are concerned which take the shape of thought, right, they might be product of a specific context, but as far as their applicability is concerned, as far as their relevance is concerned, that is where it has universality, meaning that, it has universal characteristics, right? Universal characteristics in terms of its application, in terms of its relevance, right? So that's where, this would be the third characteristic of of you know political thought, right? Political thought. Okay. So universal application, right? Relevance. Relevance in a time which may be different from the time in which it actually took shape, in which it actually developed, right? So that would be the third characteristic of thought. So to come back again, first, their ideas, number one. Number two, the ideas are a product of the given context. And number three, they would have universal application, right? So universality, they would have relevance in a time which would be different from the time in which it took shape, in which it developed, right? Now, then, is it that ideas can develop in any manner, and then they would be taken or they would be accepted as thought? Now, this is not how it would happen, right? Now, the point I'm trying to make, that ideas to be taken as a thought which would be relevant for the society, which would be relevant for the community, right? And which can be accepted as important, and which can be accepted as relevant, needs to have yet another characteristic, and that is its systematic nature, meaning that when I'm saying that ideas that develop, then they need to develop in a particular fashion, right? They need to develop systematically. Only then they take the shape of thought, right? So that is where, the point I was trying to make earlier, that any idea cannot become thought, right? Ideas, they need to be developed systematically. Okay, so say for instance, when Gandhi was writing something about Swaraj, right? So Gandhi, he